This thing works so good. You can definitely feel how long it is, but it works really good. We were just laughing the whole time. It's just so funny. It's just so big and long.
Yeah, that's what she said.
But it works really. All right, here we got the Heavy Chevy. We just picked it up from the dyno yesterday, made a custom pulley over the weekend because the pulley that was on it was giving us way too much boost, almost 11 pounds through a stock motor, so that's way too much. We made our own pulley, and the boost peaked at about, I think it was 8 pounds at Redline, so it's now it's safe, so we could actually beat on it and use it. And yeah, we ran this thing pretty hard through this section, like 10 times back and forth, and just kept going faster and faster and just laughing the whole time, having some fun. So next time you see this thing, we'll be giving it back to the owner, and he'll get to enjoy it with his family and friends. That thing works so good.
It works better than the fucking Raptor Punisher for sure.
Got the Heavy Chevy here, all cleaned up from yesterday's Shakedown. I didn't really know what to expect driving this thing off-road. You know, it's a little longer than most of the pre-runners that we build, and it's just not something that we've built yet. But you know, after a few passes, I started picking up the pace a little bit, and then I was pretty much just, you know, driving through some good size, you know, whoops at, you know, 60, 70, and literally we're just laughing the whole time. Like, had the best time driving this thing. It was just too funny because I didn't know what to expect, and then it just blew my mind on how good it was actually working. And we didn't do any shock tuning or anything. We just kind of went out there and just ran it hard through some stuff, and it soaked up everything like you wouldn't imagine. Like, this big, long, heavy old truck didn't feel like a long, heavy old truck at all. And the power was good, everything was good. Like, the suspension felt good. The only thing, it really just needs a cage and some seats now. Then really start picking up the pace in this thing. But definitely stoked. There's not one thing I would change on it. So we got it all shined up today, and just gonna wait for the owner to come pick it up. And I can't wait to see him and his family out having fun in this thing, because I was just smiling, laughing ear to ear driving this thing yesterday. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Nice, solid truck for the whole family. We have a 2016 Tundra that we're building. You've seen a little bit on my Instagram, but we haven't really talked about this one yet. This is running our laser cut radius fuel cell back half, our Pyrotech radius fuel cell. We've got a bunch of cool billet parts we did to hold down the cell and the radiator. This is running our standard frame kicks with 4-link pivots. It's also running our Tundra adapters, because this is the same frame rails that we run on our Chevys. So like the white truck over there has got the same frame rails as this, and we made the adapters to go to the Tundra frame, so we get the trailing arms on the outside of the frame. You can see here how wide the Tundra frame is. So that basically gives us nowhere to put that trailing arm without having it hang down below the chassis. So we made these to adapt to the Tundra frame to our Chevy back half. So it runs our same trailing arms, upper links, rear end, fuel cell tubes, same exact thing as the gray truck. So basically all these parts get interchanged and everything would just bolt right up. Same rear end, tab the same sway bar end links. It'll pretty much have the same rear section of the drive shaft, so pretty much everything is identical. And then you can see we got the whole floor cut out now. This thing did come to us with a cage, but it just wasn't up to what we wanted and what this truck is turning into. So we ended up just cutting out that entire cage. One, it's MIG welded, which is fine. That's just not what we do here. And it's DOM, which is also fine, but a truck this big and a truck at this kind of level, it's where it's going to, I didn't want a DOM MIG welded cage in it. So it'll be all 4130 TIG welded, which chromoly's obviously stronger. And then pretty much we'll end up with 5 feet of frame left because we cut out an extra 3 feet in the back to do our adapters. And we're cutting the front off to do our center mount trophy truck two-wheel drive bulkhead. So we'll pretty much be left with 4 or 5 feet of frame. We're gonna cut that out also. And then basically it'll be a full tube chassis 2016 Tundra with a big, I think it's a 442 dart block. I wanna say we're doing a dart block. Maruzi's building the motor. It'll be race gas only, probably 850 at the crank is what we're hoping for. So it's gonna have a bunch of power. It's gonna have a turbo 400 with an underdrive. The underdrive will help us with our rear gear ratio so we don't run like a 6.0 or a 543 gear and then just blow up the ring and pinion. So we'll run like a 373, but the underdrive will help us with that final ratio. So that'll be nice. It's running all big 3.0 IBP Kings coilovers and then a 20-inch 4.0 bypass. And it's got our crew cab trailing arms that pushes the shock mount a little further back to keep the shocks out of the back seat. So we'll still get our travel with the 20-inch and 20-inch bypass and 18-inch coilover. We'll probably strap it around 30, which will be perfect. The front strapped around 22. But yeah, definitely a snowball of a build. It came to us already caged, had the rear frame, front frame, and you just wanted to finish the 4-link and put our 4-wheel drive front end on it. So that quickly snowballed into center mounting it, and then center mounting it. We're not gonna run that stock motor. It was probably, I don't know, this big. It was just huge, took up too much room. So it just kind of one thing after another just snowballed into starting with a cab. So that brings me to my other point, was just always just start with a cab, like we did with the white truck over there. Just start with nothing and build up from there. Really excited to see this one come together. It's getting a lot of really nice high-end trophy truck parts. All the parts on it will be bulletproof drivetrain, big horsepower. It'll be on 39 or 40-inch tires. So it'll just be a really nice tube chassis pre-runner. Not too common. You see them out of a Tundra, so that's different. As you see, the rear door is huge. There's tons of cab space in this thing. We'll lose a little bit up front with the center mount and the motor pushback, but there's plenty of room in there for all that stuff. So it's gonna be cool to see this one come together. You can keep working, it's fine. Isn't that cage cool? It's such a trippy design. All right, so we're back here on the Tundra that we showed you. We cut the cage out and all that. obviously cut the floor out. That's where you're standing. So we got the whole roof section all done, tied into the old down tubes that we left in just a little bit to tie into. The back wall, Evan's working on it right now. This one's a little different. We decided to miter the back wall just a little bit to get this tube a little higher and back closer to the back wall. You can see I can barely fit, can't even fit my fingers back there. So we wanted it super tight. Since they have 2 bucket seats, 2 Cobra seats, like basically pushed against each other. So you sit kind of central in the rear, be able to see around the headrest of the front seats. But just tying all this together right now. The old cage was like a X designed with 1 center tube. This one we're doing the W like we do in all the other trucks. This bottom section will have tube clamps with an X on the inside of those clamps, so we'll be able to get to the back window mechanism and everything, because the back window actually rolls up and down. The owner wanted to keep that feature, so we're building around that a little bit. And then yeah, it's got this thing a lot tighter than the old cage. We cut all the supports out of here. They were probably an inch or so thick, so we got it cage way tucked up high. Gonna get this back wall wrapped up, and then we're actually gonna pull the roof section out and weld it all on the bench. And then the front here is the same, like what I showed you on the gray truck. We pulled this dimension, off of our tube chassis drawing. It's from the front of the A-pillar to the back of here is the same spread as our tube chassis design. So when we put the bulkhead on this truck also, we get the same mid-plate placement, and the motor placement will all work around everything. Because usually on these trucks, like that one, the tube runs forward and the A is tight on the window, but that does not work on a center-mounted truck. So we just choose to do it this way. So it's coming together really good. We're probably 3-4 days in on the fab so far, so it's coming along pretty good. So another cool part about this Tundra is basically this. Now you get the floors out, you can see it. This is our upper link pivot. You can see it's super tight in. We tie it into the carry bearing cross member. The frame rail pretty much starts here, and the outer section is there. This is designed to go on a 07 and up Chevy 1500 chassis. So this whole part, basically from here, that's all inside of this, to here, we made this adapter to go to the Tundra frame, because the Tundra frame is this wide, and we didn't want it that wide because then we wouldn't have room for our link pivots. So basically everything from here back is like our Chevy back half, and we just made these adapters to go to Chevy to a Toyota. So it worked out really good. Now, obviously, without any stock chassis, didn't really need it anymore, but to adapt this to the bulkhead, we drew up some pieces that are 1/8 inch chromoly, all bent and formed, and they will taper down from here to the front corner where the bulkhead will meet up with the bulkhead tie-in. So it'll be pretty much a full tube chassis truck now, with just a boxed style perimeter frame. But it was, we were at a point to where there was going to be like 4 feet of frame left, so I made the executive decision just to cut it all off and just delete all that factory frame, get rid of all that BS we didn't want. It just looked ugly, and it was just, we're actually going to save some weight, and we'll gain strength now as well. So it'll just, it'll be a pretty cool full tube chassis Tundra. We got our bulkhead all attached. It's just kind of floating there right now. We made these adapters right here to go to the adapters that we made to adapt the Chevy back half to the Tundra frame. But basically, it just kind of snowballed. We cut the cage out, we cut the floor out, we cut the rest of the factory chassis out. So we made that whole box section to mimic kind of where the chassis was, and just kind of make this thing a full tube chassis now. But got everything placed. The bulkhead's right where it needs to be to get our wheelbase where we want it. Right now we're just kind of lacing out the whole floor. I built this whole section, the bulkhead, with these kickers and these adapters from here. So I built this whole thing on the table, did all these floor tubes, took some dimensions off of our tube chassis to where I know where these need to be to line up with the mid plate for the trans. So I got that all dialed in, then just brought the whole thing over here, just tied it right into the truck, Did a couple, had to, you know, grind a little bit here, just kind of squared it up. Got the thing perfectly zero, so the front bulkhead to the fuel cell, everything measures out on 0 on the angle gauge. So we got everything nice and square and flat, and then tied the A-pillars in. Did the lower rocker tubes, and we kind of spliced those into this lower rocker here. So it's kind of nice and tucked. The floor, there won't be any tubes to step in and over when you're getting in. And then the sheet metal will be nice and flat for the whole floor. And it is going to be a 4-seater, pinching the rear 2 seats together. And then going to have, not really center consoles, but I guess outer consoles on each side of the rear seats. Basically just getting everything we can done down here before we get the mid plates, which should be in this week or next. We're making our own to do the LS and the Turbo 400 with a mid plate. We're doing a tail shaft plate also on the trans. So everything's solid mounted throughout. And then once we get most of the arms and stuff done on the front, we'll do headers and we'll build the exhaust without the floor in. So we'll build the exhaust all through here when the floor is still out. And then basically the last thing we do is we'll sheet metal the floor and close it all off. But pretty good progress so far. The cage is obviously all done. Really like the new layout we went with the back wall and everything. And those tubes are removable, so you can get to the roll-up back window, which still works. So yeah, Evan's working on some other tubes right now, tie in from this point to this point. And then we'll have another tube somewhere around here where the front of the seat is. And then that's pretty much it for back here. And we'll do the door bars last, so those aren't in our way getting in and out of this thing. So those will be the last tubes to go in the cage, will be the front and rear door bars. And the seat bar also will be the last one. Yeah, this thing snowballed quite a bit, and it's going to be a pretty cool tube chassis 4-door Tundra. If you like what you see on our videos, you can be a small part of it by buying a hat. Make sure to head on over to Kibbetech.com. We got hats, glasses, shirts. We got stickers. We're gonna have some sweatshirts pretty soon. We got some camo hats on the way. We got black and gold hats. We got sunglasses. Got a bunch of cool stuff. So go check it out, Kibbetech.com.